Alright there guys, and welcome back to another video. Today, we're starting what could be the beginning of a very, very long-running series on the channel. Welcome to the One Piece manga review series. Right now, I only own 2 volumes of the One Piece manga, so that's all I can't make videos on and talk about. But who knows how many volumes I'll be able to get in the future. But of course, starting off with Volume 1, Romance Dawn of the East Blue Arc. Here it is. There it is, Volume 1. So, I know the One Piece story up to this point of the manga anyway because of the live action show that came out last year that I've also covered, and I'll probably link that in the description of this video. So the manga begins with Luffy as a kid talking to Shanks about his dream of becoming a pirate and how he wants to go on grand adventures with Shanks and his crew. But of course, Shanks doesn't let that happen. He tells Luffy that he's too young and not strong enough either. That of course kind of annoys Luffy. He even calls Shanks a coward when some bandits roll up and start causing a mess in the bar that they're in, and Shanks doesn't fight back in the slightest. Luffy, of course, learns why Shanks didn't actually fight back. And actually respected him more for it. Here's a little example. You've got Luffy and Shanks, and some people rolling up. Luffy, of course, then sets out on his dream to be the king of the pirates, and find the legendary treasure, the One Piece, hidden by Gold D. Roger, who was executed at the very, very beginning of the manga, in the very first few pages of it. So we fast forward some time to where Luffy's a little bit older and has his very well-known and iconic look of the red vest and his straw hat, which was given to him by Shanks after he saved Luffy, who almost drowned after, of course, eating the devil fruit, which means he can't swim. But it does make his body made of rubber, so things like bullets do not affect him in the slightest. So Luffy then sets out on his way to becoming king of the pirates. And he ends up stumbling into a barrel after his very small boat crashes onto the ship of Alvida, the most fearsome female pirate in the land at the moment. She's not a very nice person. She's very aggressive towards her crew, especially her cabin boy Cody. No, Kobe, even. He, of course, despises her. Why wouldn't he? After everything she makes him do for her. So Kobe goes down into the inside of the ship, and he notices a barrel that's that's ended up coming towards the ship. Only to realise, and then Luffy punches his way out of the barrel and takes down 2 of the other members of Alvida's crew, and says that Kobe was the one who let him in, which he didn't, of course, because Luffy just happened to be in a barrel that they picked up. They picked up many barrels, and Luffy just happened to be in one of them. Luffy does Gum Gum Pistol, one of his attacks, and punches Alvida, flying away off of her own ship. Then Luffy takes Kobe with him and tells him he's going to be king of the pirates, and Kobe tells Luffy his dream of becoming a naval officer. 2 very contrasting dreams that would make the 2 of them enemies. But Luffy sets out to find some crewmates. He then stumbles upon the island that has the nearest naval base. The naval base and the navy is run by Captain Axe-Hand Morgan. And his son, Helmeppo, who's just as much of a pansy and little bitch in the manga as he is in the live action. So the live action got his character very well. He's supposed to be unlikable, and he certainly is. After arriving, Luffy looks over the wall of the naval base to see a man standing tied to some wooden sticks in the shape of a cross. That, of course, is Roronoa Zoro, whose dream is to become the world's greatest swordsman after he could never beat his childhood friend Ruika when it came to sword combat. Unfortunately, she died as a young kid, and Zoro made a promise to her that he will defeat her in sword combat one day. But then she tragically passes away after falling down some stairs, and Zoro keeps his promise of being the world's greatest swordsman with his 2 swords and her sword. He keeps hers with him, and I'm assuming that if I can remember right, the sword he holds in his mouth is Ruika's, and the 2 swords he holds in his hands are his. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. Luffy, of course, does break Zoro out after taking down the rest of the naval crew, including Helmeppo, and even Captain Axe-Hand Morgan gets a taste of his own medicine from Zoro himself, as Luffy found out that the promise that Helmeppo made to Zoro of if he can survive in that spot for a whole month, he'll let him go, like that was ever going to happen. And Luffy and Zoro defeat all the Navy soldiers, including Helmeppo and Captain Morgan. And which ends up saving the town because Captain Morgan ruled everything through fear, which his soldiers were very happy about when he was finally defeated. Here we have Luffy giving Helmeppo a good punch in the old face. And we also have the Navy walking in and discovering what Luffy and Zoro had done, which makes them leave. Luffy, of course, convinces the Navy that him and Kobe are not friends, which allows Kobe to finally join the Navy, which is what his dream has been. So after Zoro and Luffy leave on another little old boat, the two of them realise they don't know how to navigate the old sea. If they're going to get to the Grand Line, which is a very good place to start looking for the One Piece, even if all the most fearsome pirates in the world happen to all also be around in the Grand Line, Luffy and Zoro need to find a navigator. And it just so happens that the navigator that they're looking for, Nami, is right here. The very last chapter of the manga is actually named, just called Nami. It's also weird because if you go back to the very beginning, on the contents page, it actually it's funny because the further into the manga you get, into the volume at least you get, the shorter the chapters get. The first 3 chapters felt like they went on quite a while, and then chapters 4 through 8 feel way shorter. I'm not complaining, I'm just pointing it out. Because there felt like tons more story per chapter in the first 3 than there did from 4 onwards. And I mean, the manga has just over 200 pages. And despite having over 200 pages, it's not like a book in the traditional sense, is it? You can read it. I mean, you could probably read the whole volume in under 2 hours if you read, like, start to finish, no breaks. You just read through the whole thing in one sitting. It'll probably take you less than 2 hours. You can get through the manga very quickly. And the end of the first volume of the manga talks about a certain Buggy the Clown down here somewhere. Which, of course, the second volume of the manga is named after him, Buggy the Clown, which is also what the second episode of the live action was. And that is, of course, the next manga video I will be making on the channel. You may have noticed a new playlist has been added to the channel covering manga videos. The manga video I made nearly 3 years ago now, back in 2021. That video, of course, was the first one to be added to it, since it's the only other manga video that already existed on the channel. But now we have the beginning of my brand new manga review series on the most famous manga of all time, One Piece. And that is going to conclude the very first episode of the One Piece manga review series on Volume 1, Romance Dawn. Hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and until we meet again, farewell.